I think one of the most powerful political platforms that any candidate can use is a platform of change. We almost hear that platform bandied about every 2 years. Change is a very powerful word in our society. It means a lot. But all too often what happens is we elect a new set of representatives and we see no substantive change. We see changes in policies and positioning and maybe a way to fund a particular program or maybe a way not to fund another program. But what we don't see is a fundamental commitment to trying to reduce the size of the federal government. Even no matter who it is, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, we constantly see a march towards a larger and more intrusive federal government that keep dipping into our daily lives, and it's becoming pervasive. We can't get away from it. The people of our country are intelligent, they are resourceful, and they need to understand that we are in a battle for the philosophical identity of our country. What type of people are we going to be? Are we going to be the type of people that pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, that get back to work, that look for ways to solve our own problems? I sit here at this table as part of the middle class. I sit here as a business owner who has a business that is teetering on survival because we have faced serious economic problems over these last 2 years. I know many businesses who are also teetering on survival. One push in either direction, whether it be taking more money out of their pocket or somehow suppressing the economic viability of the rest of the populace, is going to cause those businesses to enter into bankruptcy. We are at a critical point, and we have to decide for ourselves now, what type of people are we going to be? Most Americans that I know believe in a sense of self-reliance. And we have to ask ourselves, are we going to continue to just stick our hand out to the federal government looking for answers? Now, I think that both political parties have good intentions. No one really goes into office saying, I want to find a way to take advantage of the American people. It simply becomes part of the system. It becomes what happens. It's kind of almost a side effect. But what it is, it's a loyalty and a commitment to the parties first and not to the people. Every politician says, I am going to side with the people first and my party second. But unfortunately, in most cases, that doesn't happen. So maybe it's time that we move in a new direction. Albert Einstein said the definition of insanity is continuing to do the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Ladies and gentlemen, the entire time that I've been politically aware, we have been turning power over from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party, to the Republican Party to the Democratic Party. Really, have we seen our country truly change for the better? Or do we see ourselves continually moving down that direction, that path that maybe could lead to destruction? We're becoming more dependent on foreign countries than we are being able to take care of ourselves. And I think maybe it's time for change. Just one or two independents in Congress. Maybe that's all it takes to help break that gridlock and maybe do something good for our country. And folks, that's really why I've decided to run. And I welcome the opportunity to be here today. And I hope that we'll be able to answer your questions, give you guys a good contrasting debate between conservative principles and more progressive principles. And I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Clark, very much.
Fantastic. Bring them on.
That's great. Any more? Raise your hand. We can collect them. Don't hesitate, really, at any point if you want to toss them into the mix. We have a number of questions, some fantastic questions, a whole variety of topics. Some of them repeat, so I've tried to combine some. We got some specifically for Mr. Clark, some specifically for Congressman Perriello. And so we'll try to just jump back and forth.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And we will go until about 3 o'clock. It's 2 o'clock right now, so we'll go until about 3 p.m. We'll start with this question. This event is held at the Senior Center, and it's sponsored by the Senior Statesmen of Virginia. We'll go to both candidates, 2 minutes each. Your thoughts about what should be done with Social Security, and would you endorse privatizing Social Security investments? We start with Congressman Perriello.
I would not support privatizing Social Security. And I think that Social Security is obviously a promise we've made to our seniors. It's been an incredibly successful program. The challenges that we see are the kinds of challenges you want, which come from people living a lot longer than where it was expected at the beginning of the program. I think Social Security is not in the dire situation that is often portrayed in the media. I do think we need to make improvements to make sure it's sustained. I think Medicare has been a much bigger challenge in terms of sustainability than Social Security, and that's why we fought very hard to extend the solvency of Medicare. Under Senator Hurd's plan, Medicare starts going bankrupt in 2017. That's just 6.5 years. We've extended solvency at least to 2029. Because we need to make sure that Medicare is there for our seniors. So when it comes to Social Security, we have to protect it, we have to guarantee it, and I think we've seen with the volatility in the market in the last few years just how dangerous it could be to privatize Social Security.
We'll try to hold the applause during the right after each response so we have more time for questions. Mr. Clark, your thoughts on Social Security? You have 2 minutes.
I would be in favor of privatizing a portion of Social Security, segment of the Social Security for younger people as they come through. We need to shore up Social Security to make sure that the promises that we've made to our seniors we're able to follow through, that we're able to commit to. I think when people are talking about privatizing Social Security, they're not talking about the riskiest investments on Wall Street. They're talking about safe investments. And even in this even in this economic climate, there have been stocks and there have been investments that have done well. And I think that when we look at what can we do to give Social Security options of viability in the future, that can take us down that path. What we have is we continually have deadlines. Well, it will be solvent until this date. Well, we can extend our program until it's solvent until this date. We need to take measures to say, listen, we just need to set common sense principles in place. We're just going to be solvent for the foreseeable future. All we're doing is simply putting off the inevitable. There has to be some alternatives and common sense alternatives. I don't think anybody, when they address privatization of Social Security, is doing so thinking that we should put these funds in risky investments. And so I would favor privatizing a portion of Social Security.
Thank you. We had a number of questions regarding the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and the budget for those wars and the Pentagon. We'll try to get to all of these, but let's start with this that hits a little closer to home. Can you each take 2 minutes to comment on the proposed closing of the Joint Forces Command in Norfolk? And is this an appropriate way to reduce the deficit? Clearly a major policy decision with a lot of political implications. We'll start with Jeff Clark.
Well, I'm from the Tackward area originally, and I know how important the military is to the economy in that area. We see it shift almost on a monthly basis as ships return. Sometimes you have an influx in a single day of over 5,000 people. It will certainly harm the economy if Norfolk loses that base. But with that said, if we've exhausted every other opportunity to cut costs and to trim the deficit, then we have to be willing, even if it's going to affect our pocketbook, to look at making common sense decisions. Is closing the command the right decision? I'm not sure that I know that, but I do know that it will be an economic hardship on the people of the 5th District, and certainly I wouldn't encourage them doing it now. Maybe that's something we can look at in the future, but certainly it's going to affect Virginia as a whole. It's not just something that affects Norfolk. It's going to have far-reaching effects across our state. I would hope that right now they would keep the budget base open, reconsider it, and maybe look at it later from a more critical point of view and see maybe where else we can come up with savings. There are several hundred military bases in Europe right now. Why are we looking at closing bases here? Why can't we close some bases in Europe and start to bring those bases back here and start to start to utilize the economic incentive of those bases? Think about what a single medium-sized military facility could do for Martinsville and Danville alone. It could have a tremendous economic impact. So I think when we're considering closing bases, it's not always looking at the bases or the large structures here at home. We can start saving money doing it small and medium-sized bases, and maybe look at bringing some of those things back here to the United States.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Congressman Perriello.
I I would not support closing it at this time. I think, like with the base closing commission that I mentioned earlier, it's easier for people to understand shared sacrifice when it's getting us to an end goal like a balanced budget. And I think, particularly in this economy, we've seen some real potential hits to that part of the Commonwealth. There's also an issue about moving a carrier unit to Florida, which I think has more to do with Florida politics than necessarily national security, but those are decisions that we've gotten involved in. But I do think, and I would agree with Mr. Clark, I think we're seeing a real potential in our area, both around Central Virginia and Southern Virginia, for low-cost ways that some of the defense work can be moved out of the so-called blast zone and high-priority areas that currently exist. We've certainly seen a tremendous job just north of Charlottesville with a number of jobs coming in. Not just that those are good jobs that make our country safer, but also the tremendous effort that the Department of Defense and others have done to look at sustainability, to look at road design, to look at ways to minimize the eco-footprint. We're really seeing very cutting-edge stuff, and we are seeing more defense contractors come in around that. And I do believe there's the potential, once we've gotten that far down 29, to look a little further south into areas like Danville and Pittsylvania County, whether it's data storage or other things where you're looking at a much lower cost. So instead of looking at ways to outsource things overseas, maybe we can be insourcing some of this work to lower cost parts of the United States, areas that have been devastated by trade and other activities. So that having been said, I do think we've got to be honest about the threats that we face. They are not going away. They are not hypothetical. We have people who really do want to hurt this country. We have the issue of proliferation of nuclear and other high-risk materials. And I think we're going to need to see investments in our intelligence and our diplomatic presence, as well as our military presence that continues in those efforts. The cheapest wars are the wars we don't have to fight in the first place because we've done the intelligence and diplomatic work. So I think this will continue to be an important area of investment for the United States, and I believe that Central and Southern Virginia is an area that can be part of that equation.
Thank you, Congressman Perriello. The next question is specifically for Mr. Clark. Jeff, what direction do you think Congress should go